to be followed. And then I will just give a slide on the take-home message so that we are able to end the meeting on a high note. So we have often heard that mostly known, but I want to add something here, and that is get grants or you become irrelevant, particularly if you are in a research or academic institution. If you don't have grants, you become irrelevant. And if we talk about the current education 5.0 in Zimbabwe, for you to come up with a patent, you need some injection of money. And so if you cannot get money, you may be able to publish. So actually the grants come upfront before. Some of the challenges, or what I can say, the raw deals that early career researchers in developing countries face are poor induction. You join a university or a research institute, you don't even get it to perform wonderfully. There are very few countries that are doing that. I know South African universities, they will give you some seed funding, but generally in developing countries, and there's also poor induction in terms of actually getting you to know the processes, who is who in the organization, who can you go to when you've got problems. So that's a huge challenge that is facing us. Unfair competition with established researchers. Sometimes calls are just thrown, and I must, applaud NRF South Africa for making sure that there are certain calls that are ring-fenced for early career researchers. Old people like myself may not lie. But then you have got a professor or somebody with a master's degree. Limited targeted, many targeted grants for early career researchers. And one of the challenges is simply not knowing where to get funding. So you may have great ideas, but most of our early career researchers may not even know where to get the funding. And not when they get a call or a request for funding, they don't even know what to do. Another big challenge is joining. So in a harsh economy, everyone is trying to survive, but the tactics that they use come to bite them as they grow. Because when you get into consultants, it's a lot of work that you must do. You give up your academic rights in the process, and you will spend the money, but you have lost valued time. Is more demanding than doing your normal research. And sometimes it compromises you because you're trying to please the person who has given you the consultants. Number 7 is just simply being arrogant. There are some people whom I call premature professors. They come in, just shy away and leave them alone. And so this is just 7 of things that I think early career researchers are facing in Africa particularly. So I've just summarized them here, pulling them together. We can talk of a pie that has got poor institutional support. When somebody comes in, they don't get the support that they need. Poor mentorship. We've got professors who are busy with their personal business and forget that to become a professor comes with a responsibility to nurture those that are following you. So we have lost that in most cases. Simply not understanding the research jungle and impediments when you walk. We have much time to talk about today. So what does the research jungle look like? It looks like this. When you want to overcome that research jungle, I hope the people who are drilling in my house will not be disturbed. you. Can you still hear me?
Yes, Prof. Chimbari, but you are breaking. So maybe you could switch off your video. That might improve the connection.
All right, let me do that. I hope I can find where it is.
It should be next to your mic.
Don't. Oh, at the bottom. Oh, right here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's actually not showing. Is it? My video is off.
I have switched it off.
Okay.
It's showing.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. All right, I'll proceed. This drilling. So the new beginning, I was just talking about that. You need to decide on your career path. For starters, you need to find a mentor, and you need to spend quality time with quality peers. If you spend your time with people who are consultancies, you are not spending your quality time with quality people. You need to develop ideas for research that you have interest in. And finally, you need to be prepared to work beyond expectations. So if you are a new beginner and you look at what given on the periphery there, if you do all that, you should be good to go. Career researchers to get a grant. So it is so important because they need to build on their previous research. They need to prepare for tenure. Is to be tenured, and there are stringent conditions for you to be tenured. So you need to get money in order to get on with research so that you can fulfill the condition for promotion beyond in that institution. If you do all that, you will be able to unlock the academic independence room and start working as an independent person. So while the funders have got their own agendas, they generally use different generic templates that are designed to assess proposals fairly.
You are breaking again.
And I want to quickly go through those of the funding agents. So it's a okay. Let me try again. Thank you for letting me know. My Wi-Fi yes seems to, it says it's secure, but please keep on reminding me when I'm breaking so that I can, without wasting time. So it's about the significance of your research. It's also about, it is about the team competence, the people that you bring together, and it is about the institutional support that you get. You need to have gender balance. So inclusivity is very important when you are presenting your grant. Replicability, which I can call scaling up of your ideas, and a robust design, which is actually your science itself. Then we've got more checks and balances for accountability. Then there's the dissemination plan, which is actually your process of knowledge uptake. And then the reasonable justified budget, which gives you value for money, and compliance, actually pleasing the funder. So this is generically what most of the funders will use to evaluate you. And it's important for you to know when you are submitting your grant to make sure that you fulfill those conditions. So ordinarily, this is what most of the early career researchers are familiar with. That is a PhD proposal or a master's proposal. But as you get to grants, the story becomes different. You start being asked primarily for justification, rationale, and a problem statement. They would want the aims and objectives. They want the methodology plan, and the anticipated outputs and potential impact. But more and more, what is in green there is being asked for. What question are you trying to answer? What is your case for support? What are your objectives? Are you complying with the call? What is your target group? In other words, who are your beneficiaries and what is the pathway to impact for those beneficiaries? What is the capacity development component? And what is the relevance of your work and policy implications and impact? So these are the things that I'll continue with those and aspects, but the researchers often ignore that. So I've got examples here. If you look at this evaluation criteria, which is from a Tutuka grant in South Africa, it is very clear about where you must put emphasis. So if you are a PhD track person or a postdoctoral track person, there's a different way of evaluating you. And this comes with the call. Take a look at this. If most people ignore project management, project organization, project scheduling, and budget, but take a look at it, it gives you 25 points out of 100. So if you fumble in that area and you give yourself a 5, like most people do, you have already failed before you've talked about the science. Look at the element they call collaboration on research project, supervision, and mentorship. They give you 5 points. They are valuable points. If you get 0 there, you are actually undermining yourself. Look at expected outputs. This is just a quarter of a page. It gives you 10 points. So if you add 10 plus 10, that gives you 20, plus 25, that gives you 45. If you can put this 45 in your bag, it's going to be easy
We have lost you.
and if you fumble on the other section there for you to move on to the next stage. So always look for that criteria for evaluation. Example here. Oh my God. Am I back?
Yes, you are.
Okay, where did you last hear me? I'll be able to make up for time.
You were talking about the allocation of these points and the importance of getting those points for the areas that researchers normally don't critically look at.
Okay, so did I talk to this or that's where you...
Yes, go ahead. You did talk to that.
What is all this? Did I? Okay, fine. So I'll move on. So the next one, it's another call as well. They will direct you exactly on what you need to do. So they are going to activeness to the core. That you are going to actually get from the relevant authorities. So under scientific and technical, they also of your expertise. They are looking at the positive impact of your deliverables. They are also looking at the issue of successful partnerships. Who are you coming to the party with? And what are you leveraging on? You go on feasibility, they actually say, we want to see your work plan. We want also to see the potential to implement your project smoothly, and they want to know how you deal with. So if you look at this, you write, you must make sure that you have answered these questions adequately. So you are actually given a tutorial before you even start writing. So I've got another one here, which is the IDRC one. Again, they tell you where the points are. Look at relevance. Relevance has got 20 points. So when they say talk about relevance and you do yourself an injustice, you are just going to get 10 or 5. You have missed 20 points. Look at the methodology and the sustainability for that group. They only give you 15 points. That's where the science is actually, because they know you are a scientist, you are actually writing well there. So they are rewarding you for the other things there. So 15 versus 20, you must know where to spend a lot of your time. And ordinarily, on the methodology, you are likely to spend less time because you understand the science. You are qualified to do the work. Operational capacity and expertise, those are 10 points. So people focus in wrong areas, and most of the scientists that I know, especially the young ones, they'll go to town with their methodology and their literature review. Yes, they can get 15 points out of 50, but that's all. Okay, let's move on. Prof. Gomo, am I still audible?
Yes, you are, Prof. Go ahead.
Okay, right. So let's look at also this particular one. This was a particular call that I responded to. So it tells you, it gives you guidance. It says in each section, your scientific and technical quality must be 20 pages. And your concept and objectives, they don't give you a limit. They tell you that your methodology and associated work, they tell you the pages, the ethical issues, no limit. So they are actually directing you. So I want to zero in on the point of the pages that they've mentioned. So when they say 10 pages, for instance, under impact, because impact is very difficult to write, many people write 1 page. So why must I give you all the points when you have written 1 page out of 10 pages? So you must always try to write 9.5 pages, if not 10. Where they say management structure and procedures, 5 pages, and you write 2 pages. So these templates are developed by experienced people and they know what they are looking for. So you need to comply. So you can't say that I can write a quality proposal in 10 pages when they are asking for 20 pages. So that's, again, I see it. The scorecard for assessment, here's another one. I like to spend more time on this because it's important. So you've got your track record. I've highlighted the relevant things just to tell them who you are and why you must be given the money for that particular project. It gives you 20% of the points. Just to articulate how your institution is going to support your project, it's going to give you 15 points. The potential of your research outputs and the impact is going to give you 10%. These are very easy things to write, but you need to engage with the right people. You need to talk with your institution ahead of time on the importance of your project. And when you write that section, it must be convincing that you've done the relevant checks and balances. So I want to talk about talking to the core. This is my own experience on a proposal on community engagement and involvement for the Motsepe Foundation in South Africa. So they gave us a template that says, give us your objectives, your activities, your outputs, and your outcomes. And with my team, we decided to add, and the whole idea of doing that, we went to their website and found that they are interested in empowerment of communities and improved healthcare. And therefore, we crafted all our objectives and our outcomes to talk to their strategic document. And that impresses them because they can see that you are trying to push their agenda forward. So that's called reading the call as well and doing your research. So self-evaluation, I'm going to have to move fast on this one. So this was a call which was very specific, and I was asked to actually help with preparing a proposal for the team. So again, this project here put on the board. My own organization was not actually part of that consortium. So I went to one of the consortium members and found that they'd done a lot of work. That is the Beta Center for Social Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So when I looked at that, I found that they'd done a lot of work, more than our own institution that we're working in. Why am I saying that? We then zeroed in and found out that within South Africa, they'd already done work on primary care, maternal health, and all those. And we were trying to come up with our own proposal there. So in the end, what came out of that was that if we want to be successful, we have to engage with the University of Cape Town because they are stronger than us, and we should probably allow them to lead us. So that's the case that I'm trying to make here. So I want to come to this one and also move fast. You need to meet the deadline if you are doing your grants. Do not send an incomplete package, please. And I'll give you an example here. This is what I sent many years back. What is written in yellow is the template for the proposal, and what is there was my instruction to my team to say, this is the information you must put in that template. They completed, they did their work. Unfortunately, when we submitted, we used a wrong version. So we sent this particular version. And of course, it didn't make sense. We were very lucky that they considered us on the basis that my points in yellow there meant that my team was going to do the right thing. But it doesn't always happen like that. So yes, and this was actually during the lockdown period. And we forgot in our proposal to complete part 3 about collaborations. And we sent the proposal. And look at the information that we had missed. Very critical information that we missed. So we had to call them and say, please, we forgot this. And it's not acceptable to do that. Ordinarily, they would say no. Okay, I want to go back here again and talk about the issue of not showing relevance to the call itself. I have 5 minutes left. So for this particular one, I did a proposal on malaria. I did not, with my team, read the call. This was called the Teesdale call. And we did not get the money. I was so disappointed, but after several months, I tried to find out why we lost. And here's the answer. You don't need to read this, but everything in yellow tells you that this was something on HIV and AIDS. Our project was on malaria. If we had read the website, we would known that Teesdale was known for his work on HIV and launched on that anniversary of that. We didn't. Okay. As I move on, not showing relevance, I've talked about that. Simply ignoring places, I talked about that, when you actually know where to take most of your points. And also not paying attention to the eligibility criteria and simply using bad language in terms of English and sending something. So here's another example of almost what I call selfishness on our part. I was part of this team. So we submitted a proposal.
We've lost you, Prof.
And this is what we got. Respect the fact that the principle. Okay, let me take a step back. How is it now? Am I back?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I was talking about the selfishness of not including others, which I must say, inadvertently I was part of. We sent a proposal and did not realize that we needed to be led by somebody from humanities and social sciences. And of course, we got a rejection. A year later, the same call came and we identified a social scientist for the same proposal. And we got a contract, as you can see there. The project was approved. That's what we should have done in the beginning. But we wanted the leadership that didn't belong to us. So I look at this as well. This is a call that we did actually, I think, with Professor Gomo. And the threshold was 3 out of 5. So first stage, we were able to succeed and move to the second stage. The third stage, we got 2.5 out of 5, where it should have been 3. And take a look, very general. The project management group is, the decision-making body is also centralized. The possible synergies are not clear. Allocation of specific responsibilities to individual partners is unclear. Clearly, we lost because one of our partners wanted to wield the power. So this is the power wrangle I'm talking about. So going to the next one here, I just want to show you that I have 2 minutes of regular time. I want to show you that really projects can start from simple to large ones. This one here was a proposal that had 170 pages. So, of course, you must keep on checking. Here's a case where we are actually not successful. Here's another case where we lost because we did not put the youth in front. And we ignored the fact that the thrust was on business and innovation. And here's another one that we lost because they simply said that our proposal did not quite meet their criteria. And then as we move forward, again, another rejection. These are rejections on me, but they were all 30,000, 40,000. And then we hit a big one. And that big one had good money, 500,000 euros. So clearly we would forget about all these other small monies that we're talking about. I now want to come to the end here and give you a summary of grant writing and submission process. Have your ideas in place through an engagement process. Look for a call for proposals or identify potential funders. Read the call and seek clarification where necessary. Please read the eligibility criteria because sometimes the country in which you are is not eligible or your institution is not eligible. Look at the evaluation of the proposals to see if you will be able to pass. Document all your requirements, particularly those that are administrative. Build a team, engage with the team to have a common understanding of the ideas in the call, and initiate the writing process with a group and have sessions that are individual or subgroup sessions. Share the penultimate document with colleagues so that they can pick any errors. Submit much earlier than stated in the call. I would have given you examples of where we flooded. But if it says submit on the 20th at 6 p.m., try to submit even on the 19th, or to finish everything except pressing the button. Then you press the button last minute after checking and checking. So check out for the stated request for proposals outcome. Okay, so the take-home messages, I'm on the dot now. Writing process starts by reading the call. A good grant proposal cannot be written and owned by one person. You need to work together with others. A proposal without a developmental and capacity building component is not likely to succeed. Even if it's for an early career academic, you must put in a capacity building component. Multidisciplinarity and multi-country studies are likely to get thumbs up with funders. Institutional affiliation is very important. When you write your own proposal as Chimbari, it's not going to fly. But when I write it as Great Zimbabwe University, it's going to fly. Institutional capacity facilitate grant submission and management. So your institution must be able to be registered to that funder and be able to do everything, including passing the checks and balances of accounting. So rejections, as in publications, is part of the game. It just makes you better. Colleagues, these are some of the resources that you can use, and I've already authorized my presentation to be shared. And I want to end here. I've overrun by 2 minutes. I want to thank once again Research Support Center and AFREhealth for giving me this great opportunity to talk to early career academics. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Professor Chimbari, for this excellent presentation, which I will not try to summarize in the interest of time, but just to highlight that we have been discussing issues around challenges to researchers for a long time. And thank you for highlighting some of those challenges. And I'm sure we'll get more of these from the practical experiences when Dr. Agnes Kiraga presents. Similarly, the importance of institutional support that we have highlighted, and I'm sure Mr. Matsika will also further highlight these issues. The other key issue that you brought up is the due diligence on the call, on the funding opportunity, to read the call very carefully, assess your competitiveness, and then also understand that it's not all about the science. It's about you also talked about resilience. You have to bounce back from a rejection. Eventually, success will come. With those few comments, I will ask for 1 or 2 burning comments or clarifications before we move to the next presentation. And you can do that by either posting on the chat or raising your hand. And Roger and Toko, please help me identify those who may have raised their hands.
All right.
Prof, we've got a question on the chat from Keruka Oji. It's saying, what advice will you give to a middle career who is desirable to get a grant?
Yes.
Okay, I can quickly answer that. I put emphasis on early career researchers. So the middle career, you ought to realize that you are now at a stage where you are not applying for $10,000 US or $20,000 US. You are looking for big money. And my advice would be that at that stage, you still need mentorship. You still need to work with others that is seen to be fit. One of our recent submissions for an NIH grant in the United States, where actually NIH, their response was that they can only see Chimbari as the strong scientist in the group in terms of his CV. And yet our leader was an American colleague who was a middle career individual. But we had to submit it that way because he had the link to NIH. So I always say, please accept to be mentored. This is what I would say. And good mentors will still allow you leadership. I hope I've answered the question.
Thank you, Prof. Chimbari. So again, for any other questions, please post them on the chat or jot them down for the discussion at the end. Can I then ask that we move forward to the next presentation by Dr. Agnes Kiraga. Over to you, Doc.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present and tell you about my experience around grant writing and some tips for early career researchers. I think that Prof has outlined very important factors and very important tips around the nitty-gritties, like he called it, and the detail of writing a grant. And I'll just really go through very few slides with a few tips additional to what he's mentioned, and also share my experience really. So just my interest really around statistics, and I work at the Infectious Disease Institute. And over time, I started off my career as a statistician, and I quickly realized that I'll continually be a support person in the research world, and then embarked on specializing myself in terms of what I really needed to do as an early career, and purposed to have grants that were building my career and applying statistics and data science to what was going on around me. But just to say that it's very important for you to understand what you want, understand where what you're doing is, whether it's increasing your career or improving your career, and being selfish in a way. So I had to learn to be selfish, particularly to vouch for myself and be intentional on writing grants that are very, very directed to improving my career and my research interests. And most importantly, as I've done this over time, I've learned to promote other people. And as you can see, I'm very passionate about promoting fellow women in the research. So I like this slide because it shows, it kind of shows what an early career or a researcher goes through after you finish your bachelor's degree. You get enrolled, and I worked in several research institutions in Uganda, went to MRC, had the master's degree, applied for HIV Research Trust to get more skills at that point. And then I embarked on my PhD around 2010 at Macquarie University and Indiana University as a sandwich program, and then had a postdoc. And at that time, I decided to vouch into writing my own grants. And I started off with an early career, as they call it, NIH grant, which is a very, very difficult grant to write. For those of you who have attempted it, if you haven't attempted it, you will tell me later. It's a very difficult grant to write because you combine mentoring, training, and the research plan. So it was a tough grant. I can tell you it was hard to write. And I was so happy when I wrote it and submitted it. And then the results came back the year after, and it was unsuccessful. And I come from this school where our motto was never give up. And just like Prof has said, I like the negative grants that he's told us, the rejections that he's shared, because that's exactly what happens when you're starting this research journey. So I stood up on my feet again and said, okay, I'm going to do this again. I tried it again in 2019. And the funny thing with NIH grants, you'll write it and they'll score it and give you comments, which is a good thing. At least it's reviewed. And then came 2019, they didn't even score it. That was even more discouraging. And the reasons, I've not listed them there. They were like, maybe you're too experienced, why you're a statistician, you want to do clinical research. There was some misalignment in the way I wrote it, maybe, or maybe some misinterpretation of what my career was at that time. And anyway, I stood up and said, okay, that is enough. I tried other grants that came through. I then embarked on another. And I think the point here is you'll have negatives, but you should not zero down on the negatives. After the K43, the second attempt, I then got an EDCTP that was successful, a career development. I got another USAID peer grant that was successful. I tried another one that was unsuccessful. And along the way, I got, because of my interest in using data, I got selected as a next Einstein Fellow, which was a good thing to boost my energy at that time. And it's been a journey of trying, failing, but not to give up. And recently, as AFREhealth might know, IDI really participated in a grant that is going to be funded by MasterCard. And I was really at the forefront of this grant writing. So it's a process of trying and failing and never giving up, because that is what we all go through. Do not give up on the last time. And I like this slide because it just shows you exactly what early career researchers go through. What in your mind, you're like, okay, what if I try and I fail? You have to have many attempts. And the best you get from those attempts and lessons, you learn to write, you learn to network, you learn to think through research ideas. You might get some wins, as you can see on the top right corner, you'll win some. There might be few compared to the number of attempts you've had, but it's better than no attempts. If you do not attempt any grant writing, you do not learn anything. You do not network, you do not improve your career, you do not improve your readership. So, and definitely there are no wins. So my message in all that is to keep trying, keep trying, I think is all I can say. Just keep attempting and look out for those calls. And as women who are in research and women in science, I speak from that very spot. And I know that there are very many women I've seen on the chat. You have to do an extra mile compared to what the male partners are. You have to do your part, and will not run away from the responsibilities as African women or women in particular to really go the extra mile in whatever you're doing, and just to make sure that you're at the same pace and as equally competitive. And there will be challenges. That is not given. That is given. You will have challenges along the way. I remember when I was writing my EDCTP grant, I had a 6-month-old baby, and I had this postdoc because I needed to improve my career. I had a postdoc, and I had to go to Johns Hopkins and go with a 6-month-old baby and a 13-year-old daughter, and camped in Hopkins. And at that time, I was submitting the EDCTP career development application. It was tough. And again, like Prof has said, time. I submitted that fellow application just 1 minute to the deadline, and it was not a good thing. So you have to try twice as much. You have to give yourself time, and in doing that, you are really embarking on a very, very competitive process. And when you do that, give yourself time, because if you don't give yourself time, then you do not actually submit something that is worth it. So there will be other challenges. There will be unsupportive institutional policies. I think as early career researchers, we go through that. Sometimes grants announcements are only given out to the senior researchers. You need to be very, very, very vibrant, very aggressive, not aggressive, but very intentional on looking out for grant opportunities. And if you feel you're ready for the application, try it. There is no harm. Like I've said, keep trying, and you'll actually get experience from there. Sometimes researchers are discouraged. I'm going to bring my grant, it's going to the institution, I won't be remunerated, and it discourages you from applying. And I think you have, the research world is, there are many policies that differ in very many different institutions, but you need to look at your institutional policy, see what the remuneration is if you bring in your grant, how do you benefit, how do you mentor others when you get your grant, and that way you actually improving your portfolio. Also, most importantly, you need to look out for mentors. And again, I'm focusing here on female grant writers or early career. Look out for experienced women. Unfortunately, the research world is not very well the equality, and there's been a lot of drive towards equality in the research world. If you look at the NIH only, it's only 10 out of the 27 that are actually women, over 27 institutes. That's only changed up to 2019. So you need to look out for women who have succeeded, learn from them, because they'll understand your space. They'll understand your research journey, your research challenges, your family responsibilities, and make sure that you learn from them and take them for tea and pick their brains. And also do not let your social and culture barriers or history or beliefs at times can withdraw us from embarking as early career researchers. It's not that when you're assertive or asking for something, you're actually aggressive. You just need to put your things on the table and ask and submit. I think that the whole point is just trying to get out of your curve as an early career and put yourself out there and apply for these opportunities. Another challenge that we see as early career is writing. some of the English we learned, or some of you are French speakers, some of you are from Portuguese-speaking countries. The English sometimes is terrible. Remember, you're competing globally. If you can invest in an editor to look at your work, do that. If you have a colleague who is good at English, please share the draft, and do not send applications with typos. Nobody is going to excuse you for your language. So just always remember to give your best when you're applying for these opportunities. In terms of solutions, one of the things that I've learned over time is your network. There's a very common saying that your network is your net worth. You need to grow your network as an early career researcher. Your network is your net worth. How you value your network. If you don't value it and you don't cultivate it, you do not nurture it, it becomes worthless. If you do value it, it will become priceless. When you're writing a grant, like Prof has said, there are grants where they didn't ask for collaborations. And how do you get for those collaborations? Many of the grants we see now, you'll see a grant that says we need investigators from 2 countries, from 2 regions. And in this sense, they're trying to increase networking and collaboration across different parts of the global community. So for you to get collaborators, you need to join the right networks. You need to put yourself out there and pull the networks that are going to bring you out. And there's a lot of literature around engaging and gauging your network. You can write down 15 people and find out whether your network is closed or open. So if you have an open network, you're going to have a lot of connections. If your network is closed, you have 15 people and those 15 people know each other, all you're doing in that network is bonding. You need to get a network that's open, that will connect you to opportunities. If there's a grant that's out, they'll tell you, wait, Agnes, there's this open call. Can you try it? Can we partner with you? Open your networks. And open networks increase innovations. They help you to adapt to changing environments as compared to closed networks. They give you greater career mobility. And if you're in a closed network, you find yourself in the same loop, no opportunities, you're not learning from each other, you're just bonding, which is good, but you need to break some of those networks once in a while so that you can increase your influence. And as you grow in your career, that is very, very important. And how do you get to increase your network? We'll see some of those, but I think as I start to conclude, one of the things you need to know is that for an early career researcher, you need to know your field. If you are an expert in TB, read papers on TB. Know the field, know what is the latest trending topic, the latest trending issue around TB. Read papers of seasoned researchers in your field. Be intentional and contact them. One time I was writing my K43 and I was doing a search, and every time I had a search on the topic I was writing on, one name kept coming up. And I wrote to him and I told him, hey, Professor Tansa, I read your papers. Thank you for the great work. Can you be my mentor, or can you give me a reference letter for this grant? And you'd be surprised how much researchers are willing to help others, particularly early career researchers. Reach out to them, ask for letters, ask for a Skype, Zoom meeting if you can, and just tap from them. And some people are really, really willing. There's a lady who wrote to 52 collaborators, 1 every week for 1 year. And out of the 52, 27 responded. And to date, she's a seasoned grant holder because of the networks. Be intentional and look out for collaborators. Ask for successful proposals. If you have a proposal that's successful, read it and see how they write. Pick the language. Do not cut and paste, but pick the writing style and see the framework, see the layout of the grant so that you can write yours well. In terms of networks, be intentional. Go to professional networks, go to LinkedIn, go to Twitter, open an account, see what people are tweeting around in that particular topic of interest to you. And that way you can know what is relevant, what's trending. Do not send grants of things that are already expired or no longer the topical issue in that particular field. Join early career groups. Don't be shy to share ideas. Prof has said sometimes you hold your idea. Get trusted colleagues, share your content, write your aims page, write it and share and say, guys, what do you think about this? Does it make sense? Is it very late? Can I improve it? Get some trusted people that you can share your ideas. They will build you a lot. And most importantly, be visible in your field. Like I've said, If it is TB, there's a conference on TB, go and submit a conference there, an abstract there, and learn and be visible. It's through visibility that you'll get opportunities and people refer you opportunities. And most importantly, just write the grant. We are all in a state of fear. There's a very interesting book that says, feel the fear and do it anyway. It's a book I read last week. And it's amazing that you think that you fear, but everybody out there is fearing to do something. You fear to write your first grant, just do the write the grant, and you'll actually see what comes out of it. At institutional level, there are policies. You need to read that and see how early career researchers are rewarded. Join peer groups within your institution. If you're a woman in science, please advocate for other women and create a network that can support each other and learn to really be very intentional in helping others. One of the things that I always do is go to young girls and encourage them to take science, and it's rewarding for you as an early career. Be altruistic and support others. And in doing so, you actually build up your career. So I think in the interest of time, I want to acknowledge my institutions where I come from and thank the AFREhealth for the opportunity to present. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kiraga, for that highly motivating presentation, truly contextualizing on the nuts and bolts and also the experiences that Professor Chimbari also talked about. So this clearly lays bare the path that you have gone through, and I think we have all lessons to learn from your presentation. But in the interest of time, we will defer any questions or comments. Please put them on the chat box. We will probably have some 5 minutes or so discussion at the end. Let me call upon Mr. Matsika to give us the final presentation. Over to you, Anthony.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much, and good afternoon all. I'm sure you are still lively to the presentations that we are making, and my job is very easy. Is to connect you, the researchers, and the research administrators. So my outline was going to look at the early career researcher challenges, which has already been mentioned, and I won't labor you to listen again. I will probably talk about where to get help. I know the previous presenters would not have talked about this. Then the grants writing process, where and how the administrative support comes in, as well as looking at the dynamics in grants writing and how the soft skills will help in terms of mitigating those dynamics. So as I was listening to the previous speakers, I have realized that some of the problems or challenges or issues that they've talked about really relate to administrative support. And therefore, the importance of talking about this issue and how it helps early career researchers. So in terms of how and where to get support, our experience here at the University of Zimbabwe, we do have a research support center, and we encourage during orientation that the services of the research support center are mentioned and people know they are directed to those services. If not, we ask early career researchers to find out if there is a research support office. In some institutions, these offices could be departmental or could be centralized, like the research support center at the UZ. We encourage the early career researchers to familiarize with the activities of these offices and, where possible, engage with the officers as well as establish collaboration with them. We as administrators are researchers' friends because we work hand in hand. We work bilaterally so that, you know, we produce at the end of the day a successful application. Once you establish that kind of relationship, you are now able to freely ask the officers for any information on research, including funding opportunities, because these are the people who do have databases for sponsors and funders. So get in touch with them, ask them whether there are any opportunities, and under normal circumstances, they will be circulating these to their mailing list. So ask them again to add you to the mailing list. And we also encourage people to practice work-life balance, because what we have seen is when you are writing grants, our faculty or early career researchers do a lot of multiple roles. And sometimes they are out there on social, to do some social errands. At the same time, you want them for a meeting on grants writing. So we encourage the practice of work-life balance. Now, when it comes to grants writing, there are two components there. We have the scientific component of the proposal, which is the responsibility of the early career researcher or any other researcher. Then there's the component of administrative support, which is the role of research administrators. So as you can see from this slide, that the relationship is actually bilateral. There's no one aspect which is more important than the other. So we need to keep in touch. We need to relate closely both groups. Now, this is just for your information, some of the grants that this administrator and other administrators have supported, you know, your MEPI Junior, your HAPPY. I think some of the names are probably popular as they are funded by National Institutes of Health. And now I come to the support, that is administrative support, that is given to researchers by the administrators. When you want to write your grants, you need to identify funding opportunities, and the administrators are good at that. Like I mentioned earlier, they can actually identify for you funding opportunities and circulate or disseminate them. In our case, the administrators do circulate these funding opportunities on a daily basis, and they access several databases that they can use to draw out funding opportunities that are related to our institutions. If you are going to write your application, the administrators are there to help you interpret the funding opportunities. You know, there are funding opportunities that may be 25 or 30 pages. And advisors would say to you, you need to read every page. So if you have an administrator, they are very key in terms of reading some of the issues like the budgetary issues, the reviewers' comments, and so forth. So use them. They are very relevant in that aspect. So they can actually help you to establish a writing team, organize your writing meetings, advise on templates to use. I think Prof. Chimbari there talked about importance of following sponsor templates. So the administrator is key in terms of leading you on which templates to use. Then they can be very helpful in terms of organizing letters of support and bio sketches, in communicating with collaborators. You know, when you are writing grants, you identify collaborators, and these collaborators, you need to talk to them. You need to assign them roles. You need to get updates. You need to get documents from them. So the administrator is one person who can do that for you. Then, of course, there are certain instances where the instructions might not be clear and you want to ask the sponsor. So the research administrator is key in communicating especially with the grants management officer at the sponsor's office. We continue with the support. So as you write your applications, you will need to compile a list of references and bibliography. The administrators are also very handy in doing that for you. In our case, we do have administrative assistants who are now experts in using Zotero to compile references and bibliography. In the proposal itself, the administrators can be assigned to write sections on institutional environment because they know what is there, they know what is not there. If you talk about your infrastructure, they know what is available, they know what is not. So give them those sections to write. Similarly, if your grant requires a sections or sections on ICT and an evaluation plan, give those to the experts in those areas. They are part and parcel of the research administrators, so they are key to the writing process. Similarly, the finance guys are also key because they will be responsible for putting up the budget. And one challenge that I've realized in writing grants is that we tend to involve the finance guys at the last minute, maybe 1 day, 2 days prior to submission. And you expect that person to grasp the whole concept or the whole proposal that you have written in those 2 days and come up with a budget that is matching to the activities. No, you have to involve them from the start up to the end. So yes, engage them, they are key. Then research administrators are important in editing the final document. As scientific persons, you might have some challenges in really going into nitty-gritties of looking at phrasing, looking at the font, margins, grammar, etc. So leave that to the research administrator or work with them to edit together. Then, of course, they are responsible for submission of the proposal. It can be online, it can be by mail. The obligation remains on the research administrator to do that. In some cases, funders would require researchers to register with their databases. So the research administrator is key in ensuring that any potential grant writers are registered with the funders. And they are useful in addressing just-in-time issues. This is probably more specific to NIH, National Institute of Health. Once your proposal is reviewed positively, they can send out a just-in-time issues for you to address. So the research administrator is important, in as much as the reviewers' comments are also an aspect that the research administrators can handle. And now we come to the dynamics in grants writing, which is some experience that we have had before. You know, the early career researchers, we are saying some of these may be starters in the process, and they really require hand-holding when you are writing. As you are writing your applications, this is a mixture of professions. So sometimes when you are there as an administrator, you might feel inferior, or you might feel your ideas are being undervalued and not respected. Blame game is always there. When things go wrong, you want to blame each other. You don't want to accept responsibility. And I've already talked about the multiple roles that the early career researchers do play. And this is an impact on time management of your process of writing grants. Then there are instances where you send out instructions, for example, on how to do a biosketch. You realize the biosketch has come, it's in an ordinary CV format and not the one you send out. So what do you do in this instance? Then, of course, you want to work with collaborations. There are different issues there: culture, work ethics, time zones, language. You need to take into account those issues. Then, of course, the budgetary allocation conflicts. You know, you want to decide on the salary of certain positions. Someone says, oh, this is too high, or this is too low. Why are you giving this one so much, and so forth. So these are conflicts that would require people to talk together and come up with a solution. Then absenteeism from meetings. For no apparent reasons, people are not there. So how do you proceed? You know, it gives a challenge in terms of meeting the deadline for submission of the application. So I've come up with just a few of some soft skills that we have seen helpful to maintain fruitful relationships in writing grants. Emotional intelligence, I think many of you, there's no point for me to elaborate on that, but just to say that people need to know themselves, people need to know their stakeholders, use diplomacy and empathy in terms of resolving issues. Then communication, I think this is very clear. Our usual communication skills, they help. Flexibility is another important one. You need to modify plans. If, say, someone is not attended and he has or she had a role to play, modify the plan. If it's a meeting, modify the plan, change communication style, or put up extra hours to cover up for the gap. Time management, I can't emphasize this more. You need to schedule your activities appropriately. You need to prioritize. You need to delegate. You need to be flexible as well and use the available tools for you to plan properly. Then collaboration, we've already talked about collaboration. You need to create key rapport with, rapport with key departments: finance, human resources, grants management, ICT, evaluation. All these departments are critical in coming up with your proposal. So create rapport with them, share important information. Why withholding information when it is critical for you to have a successful application? Volunteer to take on extra tasks, okay? And you need to take note of the different work ethics that we have talked about, different languages, different culture, and so forth, so that you then create that relationship with the different stakeholders. I think with that, I come to the end of my presentation, and at this particular juncture, I would want to thank AFREhealth, University of Zimbabwe, NIH, the Health Education Partnership Initiative, and everyone else who has contributed to the presentation. I hand over back to you, moderator. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anthony, for this very clear presentation, further emphasizing the role of institutional support, which has been one of the key issues that has been raised throughout this discussion. So we do have our three panelists, Professor Jimbari, Dr. Kiraga, and Mr. Matsika, who have given us presentations that really dovetail and speak to the core issues of grant writing. And more importantly, we've had practical lessons that we can glean from all these presentations. So I think for the next 5 minutes, we will open up the discussion to the audience and get some input, some comments or questions. And again, please keep on posting your questions on the chat. We will consolidate all these questions and share with all the participants, with all the audience here. Similarly, the presentations will also be shared with all the audience. And I've seen some of you were throwing your email addresses on the chat box. Thank you very much. Thank you to the presenters who are now our panelists in this discussion. Can we open this up for discussions? Any comments, questions? Just please raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask. And our panelists, again, if you have any additional information that you wanted to share with the audience, also please just unmute yourself and give us some more information.
There was a question, I tried to answer it on the chat there about the challenges of working in big teams. And I did mention that the biggest challenge is to get what I call a transdisciplinary team, where you actually conceptualize things together and walk the journey together, as opposed to what I may call multidisciplinary, where people just work independently and then try to piece together the different components. You usually have challenges, as has been said by the administrator there, that the challenge is it will be incoherent. But if you walk the journey together, then you are going to come up with a coherent piece of proposal. Thank you.
Prof. Chimbari, now that you mentioned this, something comes to mind. A lot of, a number of our institutions, especially in Africa, do not have well-developed research support systems. And this really presents a challenge to early career researchers. What would somebody do if they are in an institution that has virtually no defined research support systems?
It is a big challenge, and this is why most of the times some institutions are always regarded as co-PIs when they can actually be the PIs, because their systems cannot support them. And I must say, it's a must for any institution, particularly universities, to put their research support center into place. And I like the idea that was talked about, the work of administrators. Quite often, administrators are marginalized. I can tell you that in the past 10 years, I've always worked with a team of administrators that I support with my own research funding, because I can see the value that they bring to my team. So administrators are very important. And I can also mention that there's a program that is called UWASP, which sends out calls. I will send the link later. So under the UWASP program, they actually train administrators in the United States for a period of about 4 months and 6 months. So anyone interested in university administration, I'm an alumni and I have a current grant there. I can give them a link to that.
Okay. Prof. Gom, can I also come in there?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. I think Dr. Kiraga talked about the importance of networking. So we need to have a network of institutions, be it locally or even regionally or internationally, so that we can there share knowledge and try to capacitate each other. I know very well that Prof. Gomo and his team for quite some time have been working with Africa University in terms of supporting or strengthening their capacity in research administration. So these are some of the networks that will help to resolve some of the issues that Prof. Gomo, you mentioned about lack of capacity in the institution. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a hand, Grace, there. You have your hand up, please.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentations from Prof. Shimbari, Dr. Kiraga, and Mr. Matsika. Very informative and enlightening for most of us who are early career researchers. And I really appreciate the importance of collaboration and the importance of working with others. And also that importance of encouraging women as well, so that we don't lose hope. We've tried, especially personally, I've tried about 3 times and they've not managed to get grants. So I think I've also felt quite encouraged. And the issue of working with administrators as well, as we go through the process. My biggest query is on working with others, whether we are getting support or we are collaborating with powerful institutions who we have got the expertise. On the issue of authorship now, I think that's where the other confusion comes in, whether people will now be added because they've been supportive, or we have utilized their expertise throughout the process, or they are just for acknowledgement. I think maybe there's need for further clarification on that. Thank you so much.
Allow me, Prof. Gomo.
Please go ahead. Go ahead, Prof. Chimbali. We seem to have lost him.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I was just saying, allow me to say that the issue of authorship is important, but the rules of authorship have to be observed. And there are clear guidelines on who can be an author. Even providing funding for research does not make you an author. So this is quite a digression, but I always say authorship, do not do like people who rob a bank before they discuss how they are going to distribute the money, because they will fight and leave the money alone. So that anyone who is involved in this work in writing the piece can be acknowledged appropriately. Let's say about.
Thank you. Any other comments from our panelists? Okay. Are there any other interjections at this moment? If not, I think we have had a great discussion, which essentially for me has shown that grant writing is different from writing a typical research proposal. The writing of a grant requires much greater engagement in a number of things that are not necessarily the science. One of which has just been mentioned is the issue of networking. And I will, at the end of these few statements, ask the AFREhealth Secretariat to say something, because AFREhealth is essentially a network. The other thing that I've also noted, and especially from the experiences highlighted, more so from Dr. Kiraga, is just to learn to constructively accept and exploit failure. So to me, I think these have been some messages that have come through. So let me take this opportunity to thank all our participants, and also to thank our 3 panelists for very scintillating presentations, hoping that we have taken some lessons from this, and that we will probably have follow-up webinars based on the comments that are coming in that may address some of the issues, including that issue of collaboration and its implications on the authorship and so forth. So thank you very much to all of you, and thanks to AFREhealth. I will now hand over to AFREhealth Secretariat for the closing remarks. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Gomo. I'd like to say a very big thank you to our speakers for making time to present on this topic, and also to our moderator, Gomo, and as well as for all the participants who made time to partake in this webinar. I've seen most of you have actually shared your emails wanting the presentations. I'd like to say that the presentations will be uploaded on the AFREhealth website immediately after this webinar. And I will share an evaluation link and attach the link where you get the downloads to it to your emails right after this webinar. So all you will have to do is to make time, about 5 minutes, to take the evaluation and then submit it. And then hopefully subsequent ones will share the link, and we'll hope to meet again on another webinar very soon. So I'd like to say thank you all for making time, even though bits overlaps our time. I think it was a great session. So thank you all and enjoy your day.
Thank you and goodbye to you all.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you.